And our first guest today is going to be Tom Bosley, who we interviewed when he was appearing in Showboat at the Providence Performing Arts Center back in November. We got to talk about his cousin, Virginia Graham, who's since passed on. And I think you'll find him a pretty interesting man to hear about because he has a lot of interesting tales. And he's basically known, I guess, best to the public for his role on Happy Days. So here's Tom Bosley. Oh, and I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Tom Bosley, who's appearing at the Providence Performing Arts Center in Showboat, one of the most famous musicals of all time.
Certainly is.
I have a question to ask you. See if my memory serves me right. Aren't you related to Virginia Graham?
Yes, I am. Twice.
Twice? How twice?
She is my mother's first cousin and my father's first cousin.
Really?
It's hard to explain, but my mother's aunt married my father's uncle. So Virginia Graham was their first cousin on both sides of the family.
Interesting. I interviewed her several years ago when she was doing Butterflies Are Free on the dinner theater circuit.
She's unbelievable. I think she's doing some work on Roseanne's show right now.
Really? She's fantastic.
I wouldn't dare tell you how old she is.
You better not. You better not. No, I think I have a pretty good idea, but we'll keep that a secret.
Okay.
I remember her saying that when you first came to New York, you stayed with her for a brief time.
I did. Her husband had a theatrical costume business
Harry.
that he inherited from his father, and they had a terrible fire. People that owned the building set fire to it intentionally to try and collect the insurance, and one of them was killed, and unfortunately Harry cracked up and had to go to a hospital for a good period of time. And I had just finished doing a show up in Albany, I think it was. And she was very lonely and very upset, and her daughter then was like about 11 years old.
Oh,
so
wow.
I came down and stayed with her for a couple of months.
That's great. Now, you won a Tony for Fiorello.
Yes.
Now, that had to be a big win. That was a big year on Broadway for musicals.
It really was, and because we had Sound of Music.
Right.
And,
West Side Story.
Well, that was the revival.
Oh, it's a revival?
Yeah, West Side was a revival, but it was a pretty healthy season, both in drama and in musicals. So, you know, that whole experience was, I had to catch up with it after a while. It took a while.
Do you remember who you won out over?
Well, the thing is, in those days, you could not be nominated for the lead unless your name was above the title, and I wasn't.
You're kidding me.
So I was up for supporting role, and the others who were nominated for supporting were very upset with the Antoinette Perry people, and there was nothing that could be done about it.
You were playing the title role.
I played the lead role and won for the Best Supporting Actor on Broadway.
That's amazing.
And I think that in the past few years, they finally changed that rule.
Wasn't there a problem with that with Rita Moreno and the Ritz also? She was really ticked.
I don't remember. I saw the show, but I wasn't living in New York then.
I remember seeing on the the TV version, she was saying, the only thing I supported in this show was my beads. She was really annoyed.
Yeah, well, I can see where it would be uncomfortable, as it was for me.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Now,
incidentally, if you want to know who won that year, it was Jackie Gleason.
For Take Me Along.
For Take Me Along, of which he was out of the show on an average of 3 times a week.
Oh,
Mr. Merrick had a nice fat insurance policy to cover his misses. So
that helps a lot. Now, there was a time, I couldn't do it right now, but there was a time when I knew the whole score of Fiorello.
It's a lot of people have been telling me they've been buying it and playing it in their car, and it's a wonderful score, and the talents of Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick are such that they did music that's integrated into the show, so it was very difficult for a popular song to come out of that show, because the lyrics all related to the show.
Directly too, sure. There's a beautiful ballad till tomorrow.
Yes, that was probably the most popular. As a matter of fact, I think for a while Arthur Godfrey was using it on his radio show as a theme song.
And of course, Little Tim Box.
Yes.
That also is kind of still remembered.
Yeah, they were all fun numbers.
You know, for some reason, I thought that Julie Wilson played your wife, but she didn't, did she?
No, Patricia Wilson.
Patricia Wilson.
Now, the oddity of this is there are 3 Patricia Wilsons in my life.
You're kidding me.
This Patricia Wilson that played opposite me in Fiorello. I have a first cousin who married a young man named Wilson, and her name is Patricia Wilson. And my wife's maiden name is Patricia Wilson.
Now, that's more than a coincidence.
I don't know.
There's something strange about that.
I've never tried to figure out anything other than a coincidence.
Now, you've worked in all media. You know, of course, the TV series Happy Days. And is the theater still your first love?
Well, it is. I enjoy working in the theater very much. I have to admit that when I went back to Broadway after some 25 years to do Beauty and the Beast, I was just stunned that it was an entirely different theater than I had left because
really?
of the special effects, and the pyrotechnics, and the microphones, the sound. So that was a big surprise to me. It was like starting all over again in the theater.
Sure.
But I enjoy working in the theater. I don't think I could tolerate another lengthy tour like this one.
Hard work.
Yeah, I got a couple of little grandsons that I want to spend time with.
A little time with them.
Sure.
Definitely. Now, speaking of pyrotechnics and sets, isn't it a very sophisticated set for Showboat?
It is, and it's already been reduced, you know.
Really?
Yes, we had to, we laid off for 6 weeks last February, and we had to reduce the size of the set in some instances in order to fit the theaters that we were playing in. So, but it's still, I mean, the audience doesn't know the difference because it's still a very big set and,
Oh, yeah.
and a very heavy show.
You know, it's probably one of the, if not the most, well-played and well-loved Broadway show.
Well, the thing that's so remarkable about it, I don't think, unless you're going to get into the operetta area, I don't think that there's ever been a musical whose music has lasted as long as this has. You know, I knew that I'm as old as the show. It was 1927 is when the show.
Right.
And I remember Virginia coming to Chicago and singing all the numbers when we were kids. And it's just, you know, when you have Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein and Edna Ferber and all these people, it's just incredible.
What a combination.
Yeah.
Now, also, if my memory serves correctly, wasn't Florence Ziegfeld planning on opening a second production of this on Broadway at the time of the crash?
I don't know. I don't know whether that was true or not.
Because I remember reading that there was, you know, one that was going strong, and he thought, well, I'm going to open another one. You know.
He didn't get along. What little I know of the original production, there were a lot of battlings going on about the production, which led to 2 numbers that were cut before the show opened, which Hal Prince has restored here.
Huh.
So, but I couldn't verify whether there was going to be another production at that time.
No, there've been 2 film versions. Well, 3 actually. There was one in 1929, I guess it was lost. But the first one, I learned something interesting about that. You probably know this. But the first 1936 production was directed by James Whale, the same director that directed Frankenstein.
I didn't know that.
I was so surprised to learn that.
No, I don't remember that. I remember some of the people who were in it, but I don't remember. As a matter of fact, in wherever we were, it was on one night, and really, it was a terrible, terrible movie. What they did to the story was really, it made us laugh. You know. So.
You like the '50s version better?
Well, better than that. The 50s, you know, the movie version, again, was dictated according to the stars that were playing the roles.
Certainly.
And I think there could have been a few better choices, and I think some of them were very good.
Oh, yeah. You've had some interesting predecessors doing Captain Andy.
Yes.
Joey Brown, Charles Willinger in the 1936.
Well, when I accepted the role, I had seen 3 Captain Andys of the current productions.
Right, yep.
2 on Broadway and 1 in L.A. And then, of course, I remembered the Joey Browns and some of the others that had played it in stock. And I told Hal that I could not play this character as a clown, that he's a very real person, and that he must service the material in the show, and his function is to move the show forward.
True.
And he said, well, you go ahead and play it the way you think, and then I'll come and see it. And that's exactly what happened. He saw me in Detroit, and he came backstage, and he said, that's the Captain Andy I'd like to see.
So we're getting a different Captain Andy.
And I don't mean to criticize the ones that played it. They're all wonderful actors. But I just couldn't understand why they were being so silly in certain areas.
I think it's something that probably evolved.
Well, it is. It evolves from having watched other actors playing it. And most of the people that did the show over a period of years, whether it was a tour or summer stock, were comedians.
Sure. Played abroad.
Right.
How did you prepare for Captain Andy? What did you look for in him?
Well, I had to do something that I had never done before because I was told we were going to have 3 weeks of rehearsal. And I've never learned a part before going into rehearsal. I've learned it while rehearsing.
Sure.
But I set out to learn the whole show, and I did. And when I got to New York, I was so pleasantly surprised that 90% of the company that I inherited had been the New York company.
Oh, that's
so it took about a week,
wonderful.
And everything was sort of falling into place.
You were into it.
Yeah.
Did you go through the book?
You mean no,
the book? No.
I didn't go through the book.
It's interesting because, well, we don't want to give away anything really vital or anything that would put a damper on, but how Edna Ferber eventually arranges Captain Andy's exit. Let's put it that way. I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
Okay, because it doesn't take place in the show at all, and just as well. The other thing that I've always found interesting with Showboat is the age that Captain Andy and Poppy have to be at the end of the show.
Yeah, he's supposed to be close to 80.
Yeah, they have to be a great age.
But the difficulty is to accept me as the father of a younger Magnolia, But they're all stretches.
Sure.
They've always been stretches. So the audience seems to accept it without any difficulty.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just, when you stop and think, well, this has been going on since 1893.
It's like several years ago I did a revival of Fiorello, and we were out in Long Island, and the press came and said, what's the difference between doing it now and when you did it in '59? I said, well, I don't have to gray up for the second act.
Good point. What do you want people to take out of the theater about Captain Andy?
I want them to take out of the theater the whole show, that it's a love story, that it's about relationships, that it's about bigotry, the kind of bigotry that was ignored by the people who shouldn't have ignored it. But that's the way it was in those days. And I want them to remember the music. And I think they're going to have a wonderful time.
Oh, I know they're going to have a wonderful time. It's a fantastic show. I want to thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
And I would just like to close with saying, if you go up front, you'll find the water barrel. Ain't much different than the old one.
That's correct.
The last line in the show, right?
That's right.